All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Hope you had a good lunch. As we continue our presentation now on understanding and preparing for the internal and external security threats to our nation. Well, we covered a lot in our first presentation. We'll pick back up where we left off here. Military-style raid on California power station spooks U.S. Now, this is coming from December 27th, 2013. It's referring to what had occurred just a few months prior, which involved somebody shooting out, as I said, the cooling system on a transmission substation in Southern California. Now, some people believe that this could have been Islamic Revolutionary Guard. Dr. Peter Pry, on our radio show at worldviewradio.com, has stated that he believes there are thousands of Islamic Revolutionary Guard members in the U.S., and this very well could have been one of them because this power substation there in Southern California was connected to Silicon Valley, and it's reported Silicon Valley was involved with the nation of Israel and our American government in creating Stuxnet that then disrupted the nuclear facility in Iran. And that could have just been a little warning. We know you did this to us, and we're here among you. That's speculation. We don't know. But even Foreign Policy magazine, which again is not some right-wing conspiracy publication at all, they again reported military-style raid. Military-style raid. Here's a headline. Business Insider, February 5th, 2014. A group of snipers shot up a Silicon Valley power station for 19 minutes last year before slipping into the night. Again, they know from the video footage that it was 19 minutes, and they got there before security arrived. And again, as I told you before our break, that the head of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission at the time brought in some of the Navy SEALs that were not too far away there in California and had them analyze the situation. No fingerprints on the shell casings, rocks piled up. In advance, it looked as though to let them know at night where to stand to have more accurate access to the part of the system they were desiring to disable to bring down this transmission substation. Now, again, experts say if this had been done in about 9 such transmission substations that night, could have brought down a big chunk of the western grid, if not had rolling effects on all the grid. The article stated, quoting the former Federal Energy Regulatory Commission chairman, as saying this, quote, "This isn't about this substation or this organized attack. This is more about the larger issue of physical security of these high voltage substations nationwide and the need to ensure that some defensive measures start to be put in place," end quote. Notice he said start to be put in place. Start to be put in place. Again, we talked about our airports and how you can gain easy access to the approach of aircraft at many of our airports, and maybe even also takeoff. But certainly I can think of airports, as I said in my last presentation, where you can easily just be within, a few hundred feet of these planes going over your head. Think about all the transmission substations that are not secured, that you can easily gain access to. And how much training does it take to do physical damage to a transmission substation? So here's again the former head of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission saying this is a big issue, not about just this transmission substation, but about the security of all the transmission substations around the country. March 24th, 2016, U.S. Department press release. All right, this is a press release from the U.S. Justice Department. Seven Iranians working for Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps affiliated entities charged for conducting campaign of cyber attacks against U.S. financial sector. Now, how many of you heard this all over the news at the time? 7 guys connected to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Now, that's what it's called. That's what many people call it, Iranian Revolutionary Guard. That's really not the correct name. It's the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. They have it right in their press release. The press release from the U.S. Justice Department went on to say, the alleged onslaught of cyber attacks on 46 of our largest financial institutions many headquartered in New York, resulted in hundreds of thousands of customers being unable to access their accounts and tens of millions of dollars being spent by the companies trying to stay online through these attacks between August 28, 2013 and September 18, 2013. One of the defendants, Fauzi, I guess that's how you say his name, Fauzi, repeatedly obtained unauthorized access to the SCADA systems of the Bowman Dam. So now we're talking about them gaining access to a dam. This unauthorized access allowed him to repeatedly obtain information regarding the status and operation of the dam, including information about the water levels, temperature, and status of the sluice gate, which is responsible for controlling water levels and flow rates. Although the access would normally have been permitted for Fauzi to remotely operate and manipulate the Bowman Dam's sluice gate, he did not have that capability because the gates had been manually disconnected for maintenance at the time of the intrusion. Okay, so he just happened to do it at the wrong time when the gates have been, manually disconnected. But think about this: the ability to control the dams, hacking into dams. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps terrorizes its own people and casts a dark shadow over the world. Now, here's an article by our friend Dr. Peter Pry. He said the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is the instrument by which Iran is the world's leading sponsor of international terrorism, including against its own people. The International Revolutionary Guard Corps is a multi-billion-dollar business empire. You see that? Multi-billion. Controlling much of Iran's economy. For example, Iran's biggest construction company, worth $7 billion, with 25,000 engineers and staff, belongs to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The IRGC also controls the telecommunications company of Iran, worth $7.8 billion. Iran's wealthiest charities, including this Mustafan Foundation, it means Foundation of the Oppressed, and the Foundation of Martyrs and Veterans belonging to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. So you think they got some money at their disposal? Yeah, billions. Most worrisome about the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, says Dr. Pry, is that it is in charge of Iran's missile forces and nuclear, chemical, and biological weapon programs. The U.S. Institute of Peace notes that, quote, Iran has the largest and most diverse ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East, end quote, and that most Iranian missiles, quote, were acquired from foreign sources, notably North Korea. Folks, North Korea and Iran are working closely together. We already have read about how Iran is in Venezuela. Iran's in Venezuela. What connection would North Korea then have to Venezuela and this intercontinental ballistic system? They're all working on the same team. The mistake we make is thinking, oh, here's Iran, there's Venezuela, there's Cuba, there's North Korea, there's Russia. Reality is they're all working together. They're all working together. Iran and North Korea are strategic partners, says Dr. Pry, pledged by treaty to share science and technology. North Korean scientists are in Iran helping their space program, which is controlled by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Here's a headline: Forbes magazine, October 23rd, 2017, just a few days ago. North Korean EMP attack would cause mass U.S. starvation, says congressional report. Now, Dr. Pry tells me that recently a well-known magazine put out a report that this figure that 90% of Americans would die within a year. I think it was, I can't remember what magazine it was now off the top of my head, but it was a magazine, Popular Mechanics, that's what it was. Popular Mechanics had a report, according to Dr. Pry, that claimed that this 90% figure came from a fiction book. There is a fiction book 1 second after, but the 90% of Americans being dead within a year due to disease, starvation, and social unrest that is quoted in this congressional report did not come from this fiction book. The author of the book has admitted and come out and said, no, he got his 90% of the American people dead within a year due to disease, starvation, and social unrest. He got that from experts. So Dr. Pry and others were asking for Popular Mechanics to correct the record. So be very careful when reading information out there, even from sources that maybe you once trusted. Doesn't mean they have the information correct. Here is a screenshot of a conference that took place, the Electronic Infrastructure Security Summit Series, and they were addressing what is known as black sky hazards. Black sky hazards, and it took place this last summer. And it's the EIS is the Electronic Infrastructure Systems Summit. Now, I went to the website at the time and on radio. I went through a list of who was going to be speaking at this summit. And we're talking about scientists, military people, national security experts, engineers. I mean, it was filled up with some massive bios by these people. This was not some, again, right-wing, apocalyptic, end of the world, build your bunker, go underground mentality. There were highly educated people from both corporate and as well as from the government. And what were they rehearsing? What were they talking about? What they call black sky hazards, big events, massive hurricanes, EMP, cyber hacking, solar flares. They were talking about how the nation and the experts, government, corporations could respond in concert together under one of these scenarios they call a black sky hazard.